Well, the concept of the leadership constellation is something I developed for my book, my forthcoming book called Leading Professionals, Power, Politics and Prima Donnas. And I wanted to understand how these individuals work together to collectively create something called leadership. And the leadership constellation is a way of understanding the various key players who are involved in leadership and how they work together. The leadership constellation is a way of understanding the hidden power relationships that sit behind that. So often there are people involved in the leadership constellation who may not even appear on an organogram. And there are people who think of themselves as leaders of a professional service firm who aren't actually part of the leadership constellation. So one of the things I've been doing within my research is trying to dig underneath the surface and get to understand who is really in charge of these organizations. Typically at the heart of the leadership constellation, you'll have two individuals. I call them the leadership dyad. Sometimes they're the chairman and the chief executive, sometimes the senior and the managing partner. But typically it does take two people to lead these organizations effectively. Beside them and sitting around them will be heads of key business areas. So they might be practices, they might be geographic regions, they might be client segments, but there'll be selected ones, not all of them. The ones that really intrigue me though is the third group, the key influencers. And these are the people who may have no formal power within the organization, but in a tremendous amount of influence. It'll typically come from being very successful at winning business and maybe having had a position of authority in the past, but they've come to be seen as the sort of elder statesperson within the firm, the person who is trusted as embodying some of the key values and the key priorities of the organization. And they can be incredibly influential, but essentially invisible to the outside world. So one of the key ideas that's come out of the research is this model of leadership dynamics that I've developed. I wanted to understand fundamentally how does leadership happen within these organizations. And together with my colleague Johan Alverhus, we've identified three distinctive microdynamics, which we call legitimizing, negotiating and maneuvering, that the individuals within the leadership constellation collectively engage in. And one of the fundamental ideas coming out of that has been the central importance of politics, how these organizations are fundamentally political environments, whilst at the same time the individuals within them are very quick to deny politics. They believe that politics is a bad thing, whilst at the same time engaging with it constantly on an everyday basis in order to get anything done. Because the microdynamics are so complex and interconnected, they exist together in an unstable equilibrium. And the point of the unstable equilibrium is that at any time, if any one of these microdynamics go out of balance, the leaders may lose the authority that they need to lead. So one of the things I explore within my book is understanding how leaders can maneuver their way around, understand the stresses and strains and the tensions, and lead an organization effectively so they can achieve success on a sustained basis.